This Singer Confidence machine is very easy to select stitches. There are 30 built-in stitches that we can do, and when you turn the machine on, it automatically goes to a straight stitch and just a basic stitch length. So when you want to make the stitch length longer, as soon as you wiggle this lever here, you notice that the red light turns on. Once this red light has been activated, now whatever length of stitch you want is by the number. So this overrides the default setting. So if you want it to be a longer stitch or a shorter stitch, you can change it while you're sewing. So I still love that this machine stops with the needle up, and then it makes it really easy. If I'm done, I can pull it straight on out. Now, what if I want to go back to the default setting? The easiest way to do it is actually just to choose another stitch and then come back to that stitch. So by touching the button at the end of the row, you can go ahead and cycle back around to that first stitch. Notice the light turns off as soon as you leave that stitch. So that means that is back to the default setting. So when we stitch, that's what we get. Let me show you a little trick on that. So let's say we've changed the stitch length. We have the little light that has activated and turned on. Instead of touching this button and having to touch it all the way until it returns to the beginning, touch this one. It jumps down to the zigzag, and then you can jump it back up to the straight stitch. I know, so easy. So, and you can turn the machine off and turn it back on. That would also do it as well. So in a straight stitch, this feature is actually needle position. So as soon as I start to move it and I get that red light to turn on, watch the needle. Now you can you hear it? Each little nudge is a different needle position. So this has a full width of 7 millimeters wide. So if I want to be in the far right needle position, I'm going to push that all the way over to 7. And if I want to go ahead and go the other way, I'm going to be all the way down at 1 or kind of 0, and I'll be on the far left needle position. The default is once again in the center, so instead of you trying to find where the center is, touch that second button and back to the straight stitch. Now you're back to the exact center of the machine. So if you want to pick any stitch, whatever stitch you pick, it's ready to stitch. This is why this machine is so easy. If you want to zigzag, let's do this now. So a nice basic zigzag stitch, but now we can actually change how close together that zigzag is or how narrow it is. So now I'm overriding both of those settings. Oh, let's go a little wider and a little closer together. This is actually a satin stitch that I'm stitching. Let you see where that is. Oh, perfect. Little cutter off to the side here, and I can bring that satin stitch nice and close together. Once again, any stitch that you see, when it's stitched out, it's always going to look prettier stitched out than just pictured on the machine. So give yourself time to stitch out each of the stitches. Maybe you want to change them, maybe a little wider, a little narrower, and see some of the variations that you can do. So watch for the red lights. That means that you've done some changes to the stitch. And then if you want to clear them out, just pick another stitch and come back to the one you're on. So that's the super simple way to pick stitches and change the settings, both length and width, or if you're on a straight stitch, that is also actually length and width, needle position is also changed if you are adjusting this left or right.